In this lesson, we are going to learn 5.3, the derivatives of inverse functions. What's the relation between the derivative of inverse functions? Based on theorem 5.9, given function f, that's our original function, is differentiable. And if f have an inverse, we call it g. So f, and the inverse is g. Sometimes we write g of x is the same thing as f inverse x. Then g is also differentiable, and the relation between their derivative is given by g prime of x equals 1 over f prime g of x. Those x values here are the same. This is not the formula I prefer to use because most of the time the inverse function g of x is not given. The original function f of x is given. The formula I prefer to use is g prime f of x equals 1 over f prime of x. This is more popular because most likely f of x is given in the problem. Let me show you some examples. When we solve the inverse function derivatives, the first step is always write down the formula. So given example 1, y equals x cubed plus x, and h is the inverse of f. So this h is the same thing as our g there. So on the test, so first you write down g prime fx equals 1 over fx. And in this problem, g is the same thing as h. So h prime f of x will be 1 over f prime of x. Write this down first. So we are looking for h prime of 2. So h prime of 2, if we compare, that means f of x has to be 2. So fx equals 2. Given f of x equals x cubed plus x. If you look at here, x equals 1. So from this, we are going to solve x equals 1. So this equals 1 over f prime. We plug x equals 1 in. Give us 1 over the derivative of y. Give us 3x squared plus 1 at x equals 1. We plug x equals 1 in. This 1 over 3 plus 1 give us 1/4. So the answer is B. So for example 2, it's very similar. So first we write down the formula. G prime fx equals 1 over f prime of x. So G prime 4. If we compare, that means f of x equals 4. So given this, we are going to solve for x. So f of x equals 4, if we look at here, so x equals 8. So we plug 8 on the right side, so f prime of 8. And f prime of 8 given negative 5. So the answer is negative 1 over 5. A. Let's have a look at example 3. So given the table here, f and g, and f prime as selected values, and g is the inverse function of f, what's the value of g prime 1? Same thing. We write down the formula. G prime fx equals 1 over f prime x. That means g of 1. That means fx equals 1. When fx equals 1, when x equals 2. So x equals 2. We plug in 1 over f prime at 2. f prime at 2 give us negative 2. So the answer negative 1 over 2. So write an equation for the tangent line for the inverse function at x equals 1. So let's have a look. So when we want to find the equation of a tangent line, so first we need the slope. So the slope will be g prime at 1, give us negative 1 over 2. We just solved from part 1. Now we need a point. So at x equals 1, g of 1, which is f inverse of 1, equals what? So we are looking for what value give us 1 for f of x. So if we look at here, when y value equals 1, it's right here. The x equals 2. So there should be 2 here. That means 1, 2 is on the graph of the inverse function. So given the slope and the point, equation will be y minus 2 equals negative 1/2 x minus 1. Okay, now you can pause the video for a couple of minutes and solve the next page, example 4 and example 5, and compare your answer with mine. You can compare your answer with mine for example 4 and 5. We might solve it differently for the inverse derivatives. It's okay as long as you get the same answer, it's fine.